It was a spring morning in San Francisco. The sun shone over the Bay Bridge, and a gentle breeze blew between the buildings of Union Square, where the most exclusive shops in the city were located. Isha Curry parked her car and quickly checked her reflection in the rearview mirror. She had opted for a discreet look: dark blue jeans, a simple white blouse, and comfortable sneakers. Her hair was tied in a relaxed bun. That was an important day. Her anniversary with Steph was approaching, and Isha wanted to find something truly special. Despite her own successful career as a chef, entrepreneur, and cookbook author, she knew that many people knew her primarily as the wife of the Golden State Warriors star. But that never bothered her. Their marriage was a genuine partnership, built on mutual respect. As she pushed the heavy glass doors of Ellington & Co., one of San Francisco's most renowned jewelers, Isha was greeted by an atmosphere that exuded exclusivity. The white marble floor reflected the carefully positioned lighting that made the diamonds in the display cases twinkle like stars. The air conditioning maintained a perfect temperature, and a slight aroma of expensive perfume hung in the air. Isha immediately noticed the looks. Customers in impeccable attire and salespeople in tailored suits seemed to quickly assess her and return to their conversations. She remained near the entrance for a few minutes, waiting to be approached by some staff member, as had occurred in the other stores she had visited that morning. No one came. Taking a deep breath, she walked to a display case where a particular set of platinum cufflinks had caught her attention. It would be perfect for Steph. Elegant without being ostentatious. Exactly like him. "May I help you?" The female voice behind her carried a tone that Isha instantly recognized. That artificial politeness that barely concealed disdain. "Yes, I would like to see these cufflinks, please," Isha replied, with a polite smile. The saleswoman, an impeccably dressed blonde woman in a gray blazer, examined Isha from head to toe, her gaze lingering on the sneakers and the bag without a visible logo. "These are exclusive pieces, starting at $15,000, explained the saleswoman, emphasizing the price. "Perhaps you'd prefer to visit our section of more affordable items? Or there's a store on Powell Street that might be more suitable for your budget." Other customers were now watching the interaction, some with sly smiles. A second salesperson approached, leaning toward his colleague. "Any problem with this person?" he asked, at a volume perfectly audible to everyone around. "There's no problem," Isha replied, feeling her face burn. "I was just looking." "We would appreciate if you didn't touch the display cases," said the saleswoman, noticing that Isha's fingers had left slight marks on the glass. "These pieces are extremely valuable." With her heart beating hard and a pie-de lump in her throat, Isha left the store, keeping her head high despite the humiliation. In the car, her hands trembled as she picked up the phone. She took several deep breaths before dialing. "Steph, do you have a minute?" Something happened. At the Warriors Training Center in Oakland, Steph Curry signaled to his teammates, moving away from the court when he saw Isha's name on his cell phone screen. That wasn't the time she usually called. "Hey, love," he answered, wiping sweat from his forehead. His relaxed expression immediately transformed upon hearing his wife's choked voice. A crease formed between his eyebrows as he listened attentively to the account of what happened at the jewelry store. "I'm coming home now," Steph said firmly. "You shouldn't have to go through that. Ever." 15 minutes later, something rare was happening. Steph Curry was leaving a practice before it ended. Coach Steve Kerr merely nodded understandingly when the player briefly explained the situation. In the locker room, some curious questions from teammates were answered with a simple family matter as he hurried to change clothes. During the journey to Atherton, where the couple lived, Steph made 3 calls: to his agent, to the head of his public relations team, and to the president of his foundation. In each conversation, he kept his voice controlled, but those who knew him well would notice the contained indignation in his tone. In the spacious kitchen of the Curry residence, Isha prepared tea, a ritual that always calmed her. Steph approached from behind, gently embracing her. "I'm so sorry you went through that," he said. "It's not your fault," replied Isha, turning to face him. "The most frustrating thing is that no matter what I've accomplished, my TV shows, my books, my restaurants, for some people, I'm just the wife of. And today, I wasn't even recognized as that." "You are Isha Curry," Steph held her hands. "You're who I see every day, building your own empire, taking care of our family, being a force in your own right." Jack Morrison, Steph's head of public relations, arrived an hour later, accompanied by Melissa Chen, executive director of the Curry Foundation. In the spacious living room, with a view of the well-maintained garden, the initial conversation revolved around the obvious options. "We could destroy this jewelry store's reputation with a single post," commented Jack. "Your fan base would react instantly." "Or we could demand firings, a public retraction," added Melissa. "Any place in San Francisco would do that immediately to avoid scandal." Steph, sitting quietly, shook his head negatively. "That's not what this is about," he said, after a moment of reflection. "You know how many times I entered stores before being known and was followed by security? Or how many times, even after 3 championships, I'm still underestimated because I don't seem threatening enough on the court?" He stood up, walking to the window. "The problem isn't that saleswoman or that specific store. It's something much bigger. And we have an opportunity to do more than just publicly shame someone." In the evening, after the advisors left, Steph and Isha sat on the couch in their living room, the lights of San Francisco Bay twinkling in the distance through the windows. Isha rested her head on her husband's shoulder. "So, what's the plan?" she asked, knowing well that determined look of her husband, the same one he displayed before decisive games. Steph smiled slightly, picking up the phone. "First, let's schedule a visit to that jewelry store," he said, typing a message, but not in the way they expect. 3 days later, the Ellington and Cummered jewelry store was buzzing with nervous energy. A phone call from company headquarters had informed them that an important VIP figure would visit the store that afternoon. The staff obsessively polished the already immaculate display cases, while the manager, Richard Phelps, repeatedly checked his attire in the reflection of the mirrors. "Remember," he warned the team gathered before opening, "absolute discretion and impeccable service. This visit could represent a significant account for us." Miranda, the saleswoman who had confronted Isha days earlier, nervously adjusted her pearl necklace. "Any idea who it might be?" she asked a colleague, who merely shrugged in response. At 2:37, a black Range Rover with tinted windows discreetly parked in front of the store. There were no paparazzi, no external commotion, just the arrival of 4 people who entered with the naturalness of those who regularly frequent exclusive spaces. Silence dominated the environment when Steph Curry, in an elegant navy blue suit, crossed the glass doors. By his side was Isha, stunning in a structured cream dress and high heels. Following them were Jason Bennett, president of the Curry Foundation, and Diana Reeves, a respected executive from the luxury retail sector. Miranda's face instantly paled upon recognizing Isha. Her eyes moved nervously between the couple and the manager, who was advancing enthusiastically, hand extended. "Mr. Curry, Mrs. Curry, what an unexpected honor. I'm Richard Phelps, general manager. We're delighted with your visit." Steph firmly shook the offered hand. "Thank you for the reception," he replied with calculated politeness. "My wife was here recently. I believe perhaps you weren't present that day." The manager's expression faltered for an almost imperceptible moment. "Actually," continued Steph, his voice calm but penetrating, "we would like a private conversation with the management team, if possible." 15 minutes later, in a meeting room at the back of the store, the atmosphere was tense. Steph Curry's normally serene countenance had been replaced by a focused intensity that his opponents on the courts knew well. "We're not here to create a scandal," he began, looking directly at the three jewelry executives. "If we wanted that, a simple tweet would have been enough." Isha, seated beside him, maintained a dignified posture. Jason Bennett opened an elegant folder and passed some photographs across the dark wooden tabletop. "These are some of the Curry Foundation's initiatives," explained Steph. "Programs that transform lives in the communities we serve. But we also believe that meaningful change needs to happen at all levels of society." Diana Reeves leaned forward. "The luxury sector has a systemic problem with inclusion," she said directly. "And it's not just a moral issue, it's a business mistake too." "Our proposal is simple," continued Steph. "The Curry Foundation is launching a training program on inclusive customer service and awareness about unconscious biases for luxury establishments. We would like Ellington & Co. to be our first partner." The silence that followed was dense. The regional director of the jewelry store, who had arrived in a hurry when he learned of the visit, uncomfortably adjusted his tie. "Partner, not target?" he asked cautiously. "Exactly," confirmed Steph. "We don't want to point fingers or destroy reputations. We want to create an opportunity for growth. The program would be implemented here first, with staff trained to later become ambassadors in other stores." Isha spoke for the first time since they entered the room. "What happened to me is not uncommon. The difference is that we have a platform to do something about it." The store manager exchanged apprehensive looks with his superiors. The proposal hung in the air like a rare diamond, valuable, but with the potential to cut deeply. "And if we refuse?" finally asked the regional director. Steph calmly rose, buttoning his jacket with a fluid movement. "It's a legitimate business choice," he replied, "just as it will be our choice to share this story on our terms. But I prefer that everyone leaves this room as partners in something transformative, not as adversaries." The silence that followed carried the weight of a decision that could redefine not just the future of that jewelry store, but potentially an entire sector. 6 months had passed since that decisive meeting. The Ellington & Co. jewelry store had transformed, not just in its internal operation, but as a reference in the luxury market of the San Francisco Bay. In the elegant main hall, Miranda, the same saleswoman who had mistreated Isha, was now conducting a training session for new employees. Her face showed genuine conviction as she spoke. "True luxury isn't just about the products we sell, but in the experience we provide to everyone who comes through that door," she explained to the attentive group. "Everyone, without exception." The irony of the situation didn't escape anyone who knew the complete story. The awareness program initiated by the Curry Foundation had not only avoided dismissals, but transformed former perpetrators of discrimination into advocates for change. What had begun in a single store had expanded to more than 30 luxury establishments in the region. At 7 p.m., guests began to arrive for the launch of the Bridges collection, a line of jewelry whose partial profits would finance entrepreneurship programs for young people from underprivileged communities. Discreet photographers documented the event as Isha Curry entered through the same door where months earlier she had been humiliated. Mrs. Curry, Richard Phelps, the ideal manager, approached with a genuine smile. Your vision for this event exceeded all expectations. Isha smiled in return, observing the transformation around her. The same store that once exuded intimidating exclusivity now maintained its elegance, but with a notably more welcoming atmosphere. Meanwhile, in an office in San Francisco, Steph Curry was giving an interview to Business Forward magazine. Many would have used their status to punish that jewelry store, commented the journalist. What led you to choose a different path? Steph reflected for a moment. Public exposure would have created superficial change based on fear. We wanted something deeper and more lasting. He paused. The real credit goes to Ellington's leadership, who accepted the challenge, especially employees like Miranda, who embraced the opportunity to grow. The story had become public not as a celebrity scandal, but as a case study in constructive conflict resolution. Business schools in the region incorporated the example into their curricula on business ethics and crisis management. That night, in their home in Atherton, Steph and Isha celebrated their wedding anniversary with an intimate dinner in the garden, under delicate lights hanging from the trees. To transforming difficult moments into opportunities, toasted Steph, raising his glass. To never forgetting our values, even when it would be easy to choose revenge, replied Isha, gently touching her glass to his. On the table, a small box contained platinum cufflinks. Not the same ones Isha had seen that day, but specially designed pieces from the Bridges collection, symbolizing the connections built between people, communities, and different realities. True luxury, commented Isha, observing the stars above, isn't about what we can buy or possess. Steph completed the thought, holding her hand. It's about the positive impact we can leave on the world, one person at a time. In the following weeks, dozens of stories began to emerge on social media. Ordinary people sharing how, for the first time, they felt truly welcome in spaces they previously considered inaccessible. The small, silent revolution initiated by a moment of humiliation continued to expand, proving that a person's true value could never be measured by appearance or the clothes they wear.